Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. Lewis Hamilton's first day at Maranello today, and this was absolute cinema. Images, videos, pictures, everything under the sun from this first day, and it was a big one at that. Meeting the team, meeting the fans, the Tifosi going wild over there in Italy right now, and then going on to a seat fitting, simulator running, and getting ready for the F175, we believe, test in a couple of days' time, which is apparently going to be broadcast live everywhere on Sky Sports Italia. One other key piece of information though as well about the new Ferrari car, the steering wheel. Hamilton has honestly redesigned in many ways when he came into the sport at McLaren, the way that modern steering wheels are designed. He, though, has his preferences. The team and Charles Leclerc may have different preferences, but it seems very clear that Hamilton's going to get exactly what he wants out of this new machine. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We'll just begin right here because, I mean, you know, it's just been sensational content today. This is Hamilton arriving at Maranello. We've got videos. We've got pictures. This was actually outside Maranello as well, fans, staff, whatever. It's been an absolute ceremony over there today, and I think Giuliano De Chessa gave some interesting words on exactly what this looks like for Ferrari, for Italy, and you know, certainly for that region of the world. So these were fans outside Maranello kind of awaiting Hamilton's arrival to see if he would come out and maybe sign some autographs or something, and some of these people spotted a glimpse of him getting out of his car and arriving at the factory this morning at about 10 a.m. local time, something like that. Of course, like, there's not many pixels on this image, but what people noticed is this appears to be Hamilton, you know, with a shirt and tie, to say the least, and that was proved correct in due course. So here he is arriving at Maranello. Of course, he wasn't going to go and meet the fans immediately. They wanted to get some of the work done before then. But yeah, 10 a.m. Hamilton arrived at Maranello this morning, beginning effectively his first full day as a Ferrari driver. He's been officially a Ferrari man since the first of the month, but you know, not really getting underway into any serious action until right about now, as is often the case. So he's gonna, you know, obviously meet up with Charles, meet the team, conduct his first full test in a couple of days' time. He's got an in-depth meeting with the engineers at around 11:30, but before then they had some other work to get done, such as follows. Riccardo Adami also there, of course, his new race engineer, formerly worked with Vettel, formerly worked with Sainz, and then he's going to do his seat fit and simulator runs, possibly around about now as I'm recording this video. But before they got there, they needed to do some pictures, and we'll see them in a second. As De Chessa says, though, of course, kind of Ferrari insider, it's been a long time since you have seen people leave their house wearing a makeshift sweatshirt hashtag Ferrari, no matter what year. I'm not talking about Maranello, but in any city. Lewis Hamilton has rekindled a great enthusiasm that was perhaps a little dormant in ordinary people. We know that the Italians, they love their motorsport, but, you know, understandably, not every Italian is turning up to Monza every year with a Ferrari hat on or whatever. But this is just one of the reasons why, whatever they had to pay Hamilton, however good Hamilton actually is in this ground effect era of cars, there's a lot of reasons why this partnership makes so much sense for Ferrari from just a branding point of view, and you can see it everywhere you look with this arrival, especially when you look at these images. Hamilton puts this out today, new era, and this has almost 400,000 likes here on Twitter right now, and on Instagram it's got over 3 million. He put this out today. There are some days that you'll remember forever, and today, my first as a Ferrari driver, is one of those days. I've been lucky enough to have achieved things in my career I never thought possible, but part of me has always held on to the dream of racing in red. I couldn't be happier to realise that dream today. Today we start a new era in the history of this iconic team, and I can't wait to see what story we will write together. This image, by the way, goes way harder than it has any right to. Straight up like Don Corleone vibes here, right, with Hamilton's dress in front of Enzo Ferrari's house, and we've got a Ferrari F40 in the bottom left-hand side, I believe Hamilton's favourite supercar. Of course, a car that's actually been crashed a couple of times over the last few days. So, I don't know if that's a little nod to Lando Norris's car that got crashed in, I believe, in Monaco the other day, as we saw yesterday. But, yeah, this image I thought was sensational. And there was another one as well from a slightly different angle. There was talk about this image. I don't know if this is intentional. I imagine this was merely a coincidence. But, you know, if you look at this image, we have 7 windows and then a door. So people were saying, oh, well, you know, the windows are open, right? Like the shutters aren't closed. So the theory might go that, all right, Hamilton's won 7 world titles and his various different teams. And then, you know, here's the door slightly ajar to the 8th title. I don't know if Ferrari are thinking on that level. But to be fair, they've kind of killed it with their social media stuff so far. So, yeah, these are a couple of shots I thought pretty sensational, actually, because when you compare it to other images, there were people putting together, you know, if you guys can probably hear it in your own minds, but the Godfather music in the background of this shot right here. And this comparing some other images, right, of obviously Leclerc at Ferrari, Hamilton. I mean, this image is clearly the strongest of all of these lots. Here's Schumacher. I thought this is a pretty funny one to look back on. And then this was Vettel walking out the door as well. So, yeah, a few great images from champions past, but none of them go quite as hard as this one that we have seen today. So after all this was done, they got the images. Hamilton came out to greet some of the fans. Just wanted to note again one of the very subtle details that has made this quite a special announcement. It seems that Hamilton's wearing those like Louboutin shoes. I don't exactly know. I'm not so familiar with it, but I did see some talk about it. So you guys can probably just about see that there's a little bit of red on the sole of his shoes. I think that's a common thing with that brand, anyway, that designer brand. And he's obviously wearing all black apart from the white dress shirt, but on his, you know, the soles of his shoes have got that little bit of red. So I just thought, you know, for the guy that put this outfit together, or like whoever his team has been working on this design for everything, like I thought they kind of nailed it, right? Because even that subtle detail was something that caught people's attention, right? So here's Hamilton coming out, obviously, after maybe his engineering meetings for the first part of the day. Many members of the Tifosi waiting outside for Hamilton to come out and say hello, and he says hello to everyone. This is where the image that we saw was taken. He signed some autographs. This is John Elkann as well behind him, kind of saying, all right, Lewis, like, we've got things to do. But, you know, I'm sure Elkann was seeing dollar signs among dollar signs in terms of how important this is, even culturally, for Ferrari. Whether it works, I mean, this is the big question, right? Because after a spectacle as today, people are like, well, you know, Hamilton better not flop at Ferrari, right? Like, he's going to have to deliver after all of this stuff. And I think that he believes that he can, and I think that he will. Whether, you know, how it's going to go with Charles Leclerc, man, that is one of the most exciting questions of the entire season. So, a couple of then updates, really, on what he got up to for the rest of the day, and what next for Hamilton in this relationship, really. As Takesa says, he visited the Fiorano garage with Vasseur and Vigna, and in the afternoon he will visit the department. All the updates they've got on autoracer.it. And this apparently is going to be the plan. So in a couple of days' time, we think on the 22nd of January, so on the Wednesday, they are going to run a Ferrari test with Hamilton. Hamilton in the morning, Leclerc in the afternoon. As we saw a couple of days ago, Ferrari are very clear to say, no, we're not giving Hamilton any special treatment or anything like this. But look, the reality is that this is a pretty big deal in the history of Formula One. So the other rumour is that it will be fully broadcast, this test. And usually this doesn't happen, but it totally makes sense in this circumstance. For Sky Sports Italy to fully broadcast this Ferrari test from their studio, live at the circuit as well, weather permitting. So they're planning it to be Wednesday. That's the intention. If the weather is a problem, then maybe they will do Mugello on that day, or maybe they will do Fiorano on the next day, something like that anyway. But it's going to be TPC, testing previous cars, and it's probably going to be the F175 with like a newer livery with the new sponsors. That seems to be the plan anyway, a couple of days away at this point. So, yeah, first time this week, Hamilton's going to be in a Ferrari. He's presumably going to do his seat fitting, some simulator stuff today to get ready for that over the next couple of days with the team. But another key piece of information on why Hamilton might, I wouldn't say getting preferential treatment, but just they are making everything Ferrari as easy as possible for Hamilton to slot in there and deliver with the team. Whether that's to the detriment of Charles Leclerc, that will not be the plan. Leclerc has been their star driver over the last few years. And last season, of the two of them, Leclerc was the better driver for their respective teams. But Hamilton is still the superstar here, and I think you can tell on what we have seen today. So Hamilton comes in, and he will get everything he wants, it seems, from a steering wheel perspective. You guys may know know, when Hamilton came into the sport over the first few years, he redesigned a lot of things about the way that he wanted the steering wheel to work, where the buttons were laid out and everything like that. And Hamilton's design on that has, generally speaking, been copied by many other teams over the last few years, including, of course, his own team, Mercedes, and elsewhere. So even Ferrari have definitely taken inspiration from Hamilton's ideas when he first came into the sport about the way that he wants his wheel designed, but still, Hamilton has a very specific preference for how he likes his steering wheel to be. I certainly don't think he'd want it to be like one of these old Williams ones from a couple of years ago where they were a very strange shape. Hamilton has his preferences on the way that he likes his steering wheel, and we also know that at the start of the Grand Prix, Hamilton has this very unique trait of placing his left hand on top of the wheel. Now, the reason why he does this is because when you're upshifting on the start, what you absolutely don't want to do with the pressure of the moment and where your left hand is sitting is accidentally downshift. Now, even if you try and downshift, because this never happens, right? You might think, why is Hamilton trying to stop the downshifting? Who does that? But it can happen. The thing is, the gearbox will not let you. Like, if you're revving at that rate, the gearbox is not going to allow you. But if you accidentally downshift, it's going to slow you down for your next upshift, right? There's going to be a bit of a delay, and it's going to prevent the upshift you're trying to do, and it's probably going to slow you down into turn one. So to avoid any of that, Hamilton puts his left hand over the top of the left-hand side of the wheel, and he places his fingers between the wheel and the shifter, right, on the left side to shift down. So that means he cannot do it, and that's basically the reason for this. But there's also other preferences as well in the way that he likes his steering wheel, and it seems that Ferrari's one for Hamilton will not be like a standard Ferrari steering wheel that they give to both drivers. This will be a Hamilton steering wheel, but of course with Ferrari colours on it. That seems to be the plan. So he will have a control layout similar to the one used at Mercedes, recognisable for, of course, that particular position. This was an image I mentioned a second ago. But yeah, this is just a bit of a comparison here between what Hamilton is kind of used to and therefore likely what he's going to get again. This is Leclerc's Ferrari steering wheel. This is what Hamilton has been used to, and more than likely, it seems, they will be providing Hamilton something a little bit more similar to what he would prefer compared to what Leclerc and Ferrari have used for some time. So obviously, Hamilton likes this positioning of the gear shifters because it means that he can put his left hands in a position to stop it. With Leclerc's one on the right-hand side here, that's not really possible with where the gear shifters are, so they're not going to have that for Hamilton's one. And also the position of the clutch, there's also, like, they're going to move that around a little bit as well to Hamilton's preference. So just an interesting development, I thought, really, in terms of what Ferrari are doing to make everything as seamless as possible for Hamilton to come into this team. The bottom line is, though, how's it going to go? Because after all the, song and dance of today and everything that's going to happen over the next couple of days, Hamilton-Leclerc is the strongest driver lineup that we have seen in Formula 1 on paper in an incredibly long time, in my opinion. Maybe since Hamilton-Rosberg, one might argue. And Rosberg himself was commenting on this and saying, look, Lewis is the greatest of all time, but Leclerc last year had a phenomenal season, really, and Hamilton didn't. So is that going to be different at Ferrari? Who really knows? I think the reality is it should be a new lease of life here for Hamilton on some level. He's going to be massively motivated to deliver here at Ferrari this season, and, I'd be surprised if he doesn't, at least in some capacity, if the car is able to do so. Just one final thing before we close out the video today. This was a big talking point going around yesterday on Max Verstappen. So I don't know how true this is. It's Italian media, it is what it is, Motorsport Italy. But they were saying how Verstappen is seemingly convinced. I would argue that Jos Verstappen is seemingly convinced. From the conversations, from the rumours that we've heard over the last few months, it does seem like Jos is absolutely on board with the idea that Mercedes will be the strongest team in 26, or certainly have the strongest engine. They may not produce the best aero package, but every team seems to believe that Mercedes, again, as in 2014, are going to have the strongest engine package in 2026. Now, what Red Bull might do with Max is keep him for this year, for next year, and then Max may decide for 2027, okay, I'm going to go to the team that's the best. But if Max is convinced that Mercedes is the place to be because the Red Bull engine isn't going to be good enough in 26, why wait a year where you're not going to win? Why not go there immediately? So that's why there's been lots of continued talk around George Russell, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, because if Max really is looking at Mercedes, there's only 2 seats. So look, Russell's talking a big game, talking about how, look, put him in the same car as Max, he's going to be able to challenge him for the championship. Do I personally believe Russell would have done a better job than Lando in that McLaren this year? I actually do. But do I think Russell has the minerals, maybe even just the pace. I think he's got the minerals, actually, Russell. I do think he's got some balls on him, but I don't know if he's got the outright consistency and race pace necessary to challenge Max all the time. I think Canada was a good example of a weekend where Russell could have won, should have won, but Max ended up winning regardless. And it's those type of weekends that define a championship. But obviously people are saying, look, Antonelli could be a danger to George, especially if Max Verstappen's knocking on the door. So just one thing to continually keep in mind over there. And just one final thing, the driver rankings are underway. Race fans, you know that it's basically bang on the middle of the off-season when race fans start to drop their driver rankings. You guys might also remember there was a few weekends this year where I had, like, you know, obviously driver of the day is usually pretty obvious, but then, you know, donkey of the day I came up with for a little while, and it was often Sergio Perez. Sometimes it was Logan Sargent. I'm going to make sure for the new season I bring that back more often because, you know, clown of the day or something like that. There's always one, whether it's a driver, whether it's a strategy team or whatever, that's made a bit of a, you know, bit of a cock up. It's something that I want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on. So these are your worst drivers of the season. Number 22, congratulations, Logan Sargent. I mean, he had a torrid time, he got smoked by Albon. And Alex Albon, by the way, that when Colapinto challenged him, was not indomitable. Like, Albon and Colapinto had a pretty good fair share of matchups as time progressed. But of course, Logan was getting clowned. And then his crash at Zandvoort called the end of his career. It was a stupid crash anyway, like he got onto the grass and put the power down. I don't know what he was doing. Anyway, Sargent, he's got some talent in there. We've seen it in other series. He just didn't translate into Formula 1. So he gets number 22. And number 21, can you guess, guys? Congratulations, Sergio Perez, the second worst driver of the season, according to race fans. I think you can guess who number 1 is going to be. So, you know, that's quite the delta between their two respective drivers. Of course, both drivers now that are well and truly out of the sport. So whether you think it's fair or not, Perez is 21st on their rankings, Sargent's 22nd on their rankings, of course, because driver changes were made during the season. Other guys came in, such as Colapinto, and we'll get into him, of course, and others over the coming days as we continue to go down this list. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.